The confession slipped out of her the moment the coffee cups touched the table, as if the silence itself had pressed too hard on her chest and forced the truth free, and the bruise on her shoulder burned beneath the soft café lights like it wanted to be seen. Hannah felt the familiar tightening in her throat, that mix of embarrassment and relief that came whenever she admitted the thing she carried everywhere, the belief that no one ever really chose her, not for long, not without leaving. If this were you, sitting across from a stranger with your hands wrapped around a warm mug just to feel something steady, would you have hidden it better, or would you have let it spill the same way, hoping honesty might finally soften the blow of rejection? The blind date had been arranged by a well-meaning coworker in Columbus, Ohio, the kind of city where people smiled politely and assumed everyone else had their life mostly together. Hannah did not feel together at all. She had shown up because saying no felt like giving up, and because part of her still believed that if she kept walking into rooms bravely enough, one day the story would change. The man across from her was named Marcus, broad-shouldered, tired-eyed, wearing the kind of jacket that suggested early mornings and responsibilities that did not pause for romance. He listened, really listened, the way people rarely did, his attention steady and unflinching, and when Hannah said that no one wanted to date her anymore, she waited for the familiar shift, the polite retreat, the subtle closing of a door she had seen 100 times before. Hannah's life before that moment had been a series of quiet disappointments stitched together with resilience. She had loved deeply once, trusted the wrong men, and paid for it with bruises that faded slower each time and apologies that grew emptier. Leaving had taken everything she had, including the illusion that love was safe. Therapy helped, work kept her busy, faith held her upright on the days she felt like collapsing, but dating felt like reopening a wound everyone else expected to be healed already. People asked why she was so guarded, why she flinched at sudden movements, why she hesitated to believe kind words. They did not see the nights she slept with the lights on or the way her heart raced at raised voices in grocery store aisles. They only saw a woman who seemed distant, complicated, too much work. Marcus carried his own quiet history into that cafe. He was a single father raising an 8-year-old son named Caleb after his wife had died suddenly 3 years earlier, a loss that rearranged his entire world overnight. He had learned how to pack lunches with notes tucked inside, how to braid hair for school plays, how to keep going when grief showed up uninvited in the middle of ordinary days. Dating had not been easy for him either, not because women did not like him, but because most did not want to share space with a child or a widowed past that still breathed. He had come to the blind date out of a sense of openness rather than hope, trusting that whatever happened would be survivable. When Hannah spoke, Marcus did not rush to reassure her or contradict her pain with empty optimism. He saw the bruise, the careful way she held herself, the exhaustion beneath her composure, and something in him shifted. Instead of evaluating her as a potential partner, he recognized her as a fellow traveler in loss, someone who knew what it meant to be changed by things you did not choose. If you were him, hearing that kind of honesty, would you have leaned back to protect yourself, or leaned in, risking that familiar ache of caring again? The conversation moved gently, touching on work, family, small hopes, and the cafe around them faded into background noise as something quieter and more important took shape. Hannah noticed that Marcus never looked at his phone, never glanced at the door, never treated her pain like an inconvenience. It felt unfamiliar, almost unsettling, to be met with presence instead of pity. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel like she was auditioning for worthiness. She felt seen, not as damaged goods, but as a whole person who had survived. Over the weeks that followed, their connection grew slowly, deliberately, like two people testing thin ice with careful steps. They met in public places at first, walked through parks where children laughed and leaves turned gold, shared meals where silence was comfortable instead of tense. Marcus talked about Caleb, about the fear of loving again when loss had already carved such a deep groove in his life. Hannah talked about rebuilding trust, about learning to believe her story did not end with what had been done to her. There were setbacks, moments when old fears flared, when Hannah pulled back or Marcus grew quiet, but they kept choosing honesty over disappearance, a choice neither of them had seen modeled well before. The real change came one evening when Hannah was invited to Marcus's home for the first time, a modest place filled with evidence of life continuing despite grief. Drawings were taped to the fridge, a small pair of sneakers by the door, a sense of warmth that surprised her. Caleb greeted her with cautious curiosity, and Hannah felt something loosen inside her as she realized she was not being evaluated, only accepted as she was. Watching Marcus move through his home, attentive and gentle, she understood that his reaction on that first date had not been about rescuing her or proving anything. It had been about recognition, about seeing pain and responding with steadiness instead of fear. Hannah's healing did not suddenly become complete, and Marcus's grief did not vanish, but together they created a space where both could exist without apology. She learned that being chosen did not always look like grand declarations. Sometimes it looked like consistency, like someone showing up again and again, even on days when it would be easier not to. He learned that opening his heart again did not diminish the love he had lost, it expanded the capacity he still had to give. Their relationship became a quiet testament to second chances, not flashy or perfect, but real in a way that mattered. If you have ever sat across from someone and felt unlovable, or carried a past that made you doubt your future, pause here and ask yourself what might change if the right person did not see your scars as reasons to leave, but as reasons to stay. Before the story ends, share in the comments what this moment stirred inside you, whether it reminded you of your own fears, hopes, or the chance you are still waiting to take. Hannah never forgot the way that first confession had felt, heavy and exposed, but she learned that sometimes the bravest truths lead to the gentlest outcomes. And if this story touched your heart even a little, consider liking it, sharing it with someone who might need hope today, commenting your thoughts, and subscribing for more stories that believe in healing, kindness, and the power of choosing each other again.